Well, good morning, everybody. I'm told that I have to read the objectives that my staff wrote for me. I couldn't believe it. Myth, psychology, and the mystery of transformation of self and society. That should be called Humanity 3.0, I think, or something. I can't believe this. Drawing on the findings of our own mythic life, that's true. And work in over 100 countries, that's true, 40 cultures, with leaders of the world over, unfortunately, that's true. Dr. Houston will offer a workshop rare for its ability to evoke new ways of being through the consideration of the dynamics of both old and emergent myths and stories of transformation. Participants will experience state-of-the-art methods in experiencing sensory, psychological, symbolic, and spiritual growth and discovery in ways both practical and profound, liberating thought waves, shifts in perception and understanding, and growth in capacity will enable the participant to take these discoveries back to his or her own clients, communities, and organizations. Full of music and high theater, and often hilarious. My God, they put that in. Houston's father wrote the joke, "Who's on first?" Yeah. Actually, I think it was he and two Jewish guys when you look at the nature of the joke. It's interactive. They used to say, "Jack, Goyish up these jokes so that Hicks in Kansas will understand them." Anyway, this workshop will explore the mystery of living in a time of whole system transition when what we can do as individuals can make a significant difference in the lives of many. I'm so glad. This is a state of galloping chutzpah, isn't it? I'm so glad that my father has passed on and is not here. You know what he used to do for me? He would show up at everything. And once I had to give a lecture to 4,000 people at the closing of the UCLA, some big graduation. And boy, did I prepare a speech. And I had a good speech. Well, at 28 minutes, my father, who was an old radio man, went... And I happily went on and on and on and on and on. And finally, my poor daddy was in hysterics. So I finally concluded, and it was a good speech, and I had a standing ovation. The moment that speech ended, the very second, my father, who had a rather high voice, shouted out from the audience, "Your ears sure must be happy when your mouth finally goes to sleep." Destroyed the entire speech. It was wonderful, actually. Therapists don't appreciate it, but when you have a comedian as a father, it's really quite wonderful. I was a very close friend of Joseph Campbell. How many of you know who Joseph Campbell was? Wonderful. And we did a lot of work together over 20 years. He would tell a story, and then I would enact it or provide exercises that would illumine the story. He said, "How can you do that?" I said, "How can you not?" So I was asked to give one of the main speeches at his funeral, a great memorial at the Natural History Museum. It was October of 1987. And when I came home, I felt myself being pulled into sleep. And I was trying to stay awake to read the novel before I go to bed. Never read mystery novels before you go to sleep. It wrecks the dreams. But anyway. But I found myself pulled into sleep, and it was the same dream. It was Joe Campbell looking very wan, saying, "Gene, come to Upper Riverside Drive and help with the correspondence." I said, "Joe, you never answered your correspondence for 18 years. How am I going to do that? And I have to go to this country and that country and this thing." And he kept insisting, "Come to Riverside Drive and help with the correspondence. I'll send my secretary. She can help. She knows how to do those things." "No, you." This went on all night. I was fighting the pillow. Finally, I woke up exhausted. And I was trying to think, correspondence. What does he mean, Upper Riverside Drive? I went to Barnard College. Could that have been it? And so some weeks went by as I pondered this dream. And finally, a very wise elder friend of mine, Marvin Sussman, said, "Gene, It's not about correspondence, about letter writing. It's about the correspondences. It's about the correspondences between myth and history, myth and psychology, myth and economics, myth and governments. What is the relationship? And I said, oh, wow, right. And since that time, 22 years ago, I have indeed been looking for the correspondences between myth and everything else. I do a few other things as well. I mean, part of my job, as some of you may know, I'm a consultant to the United Nations in human development. And I am sent into countries, often traumatic situations, to help them find the story, the evolving or the emerging story that will help them find new ways of being. Because when you have an organizing, organic story serving as a lure of becoming, both in person, in profession, in role, and also in culture, you often find that the story will act as the lure of becoming for new ways of being, for self and for country and culture. Okay. It's a year ago, no, it isn't. It's last November. I'm in Egypt. My dear husband, my beloved husband of 43 years, Robert Masters, died last year. And boy, do you learn a lot about being full-time caregiver. How many of you have been full-time caregiver? And by the way, one of the things that I did, one of the best things I could do beyond the medical things, was I interviewed him the last 6 months of his life. I sat on the bed, and I remembered that Simone de Beauvoir had done that for Jean-Paul Sartre. So I interviewed him, and it was wonderful. And he said, I didn't realize that. Oh, it makes sense. It's a marvelous way, by the way, to be there as the caregiver to interview. Anyway, I brought his ashes to Egypt. I had, every 2 years or so, I take a lot of students and friends to Egypt, about which I know a certain amount. And my husband had been a part-time Egyptologist. So I buried his ashes between the paws of the Sphinx, and also at the great temple of Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess to whom he was devoted. I took the ashes and I creamed them into the statue and got a lot of poor old Bob down my throat while I was doing it. And then put the ashes, I think I still have them in my fingernails, but anyway. And then I put them beneath the huge, huge statue of Ramesses II, whom my husband not only greatly resembled, but he behaved accordingly too. Well, after we would come out of these great temples, we would be surrounded by Egyptians. Now remember, this is November of last year, all saying the same thing. Obama, 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 Obama. French people who normally hate us would come up and say, oh, we forgive you everything. We love you again. Oh, Obama, Obama, Obama. And they'd kiss us on the boat. Now, whatever you might think about the current issues, which are enormous, the fact is, so many people in the world thought that a mythic page had been turned on America. How many of you are aware of that? Yeah. And that there was a whole new story, a whole new dispensation. And it wasn't about a particularly heroic and very appealing human being. I think it was that, of course, but it was also about the fact that there was an emergent new story that was occurring. A story so vast that it seemed to have a mythic base. Now, what is myth? Well, I've explored this issue for 40 years, and I'd have to say a myth is something that never was but is always happening. A myth is the coded DNA of the human psyche. I've asked one of my students to come up here, Marty Glenn, who is, by the way, the creator of the great school of prenatal and perinatal psychology, the Santa Barbara Graduate Institute, yeah, and has used a lot of our mythic forms, haven't you, in the creation of new birthing stories. A myth is, beneath the surface crust of consciousness, and I've had the extraordinary opportunity to take depth probings of the psyche of people literally the world over. Get beneath the surface crust of consciousness, friends, and you find that myth abides. Mythic structures, archetypal structures abide. Wise old men, wise old ladies, talking horses, journeys of transformation. Joe Campbell and I used to explore these things together and discover that These mythic structures may very well be ontological structures of the psyche. They may be givens. He believed, being a very high kinesthetic fellow, he was a great athlete, he believed that they were actually structured in the organs of the body. I believe that too, but I also suspect, certainly when you look at the journey of the fetus, from the time it is that little tiny being until it explodes like the universe into a full human being, it is a mythic journey through, wouldn't you say, through the great trimesters. I missed the third trimester, by the way. I'm sure what's wrong with me. I was my mother's miscarriage. I came in the beginning of her 7th month. So I missed the third trimester. What you see before you is the world's oldest and largest living fetus. It's true. No myelin sheathing. We must talk about this sometime. I must come to you as a baby. You can do this thing, can't you? Anyway, we find that these great, great structures are coded in us, and that when we find our way of tapping into these archetypal stories, we find enough reserves, capacities, skills that seem to be givens of the human condition. Now, that does not mean that there are not demonic myths. What did Hitler do? But really speak to the myth of an archaic myth going way, way back, an undigested primitive mythology, old Germanic mythology, and speaking then about the particular Aryan race and its necessity to overcome everybody else. So the nature of story will often affect a whole culture. I was in India some years ago, and I was sitting on the ground in a small village that had one television set. And the television set was there in the trees, and it belonged to an old wealthy Brahmin lady. And people would come in and they would tie up their water buffalo, and they would come in from the farms, and they would sit and watch the Ramayana. How many of you know about the Ramayana? Ramayana, tremendous story. The core story in the soul of India. You find it, in pictures that are waving in a cabs. You find it literally painted on the sidewalk. It is there informing the cultural life of India. What a great dog there. What a wonderful. I'm half dog myself, so I need that. You find it everywhere. It is the coded template of the psyche of India. Anyway, there they are watching this tremendous, beautiful, evocative, powerful, beautiful costumes, drama, dance of the story of Prince Rama and his extraordinary wife, Princess Sita, and how they are betrayed of their kingdom, and they go and they have to go and live in the forest for 14 years. And they have an idyllic life. He is handsome, noble, good, virtuous. She's total virtue and very much, in secondary role or tertiary role to her husband, the perfect classical Indian couple of the past. And it is so beautiful, the drama, the songs, the dances. And finally, the old Brahmin lady turns to me and she says, I don't like Princess Sita. She is much too passive. Terrible example. Terrible example. We women in India were much stronger than that. It is a very bad example. We have to change the story. I couldn't have been more shocked. Madam, the story is at least 3,000 years old. All the more reason why we have to change it. It is terribly outdated. We have to change the story. He said, my name is Sita. My husband's name is Rama. Very common in India. He is a lazy bum. Anything happened, he got in trouble. I would be the one to go and rescue him. Sita must have more to do with her own rescue. We have to change the story. And then she turned and she was speaking in Gujarati to the people sitting around, and they were agreeing. And I couldn't believe this. It was like being in Mississippi and watching a group of Baptists rewrite the Gospel of Mark or something. So I was so very shocked, but it was happening. I was watching the changing of the story. And later, when this beautiful, beautiful story ends, what comes on? What is being downloaded from the satellite? World myth, the world mind taking a walk with itself. But dynasty. And I was really embarrassed. And the old lady saw it, and she looked at me, she said, "Oh, sister, why are you so embarrassed? Can't you see it is the same story?" I said, "How can you say that? You got the good lady, you got the bad lady, good man, good Batman, you got the demons. Oh, good versus evil. Yes, indeed, it is the same story." And she was right. And here, as I said, was the world mythos trying to come together. But the critical point was the disagreement with the classical story. Now, because I travel so much, too much, used to be fun. It's not anymore. There's no food in airline. I never travel first class. But what I find is not only is our mythic and archetypal structures rising in our time that are in some sense unique to history and culture, which suggests not only a shift of culture, but that these stories are changing in very critical ways. How? Well, for one thing, the stories that seem to be emerging do not have to do with a lonely particular individual battling his way past his own toxicities and being 16 years old. And Joe and I used to argue about this all the time. It's not about the singular individual. It is men and women together, It is people of all ages. It is people of all cultures coming together. And often the great boon is not about some unique capacity or skill, although it is about that. It tends to be about the earth herself, because it is the earth herself who needs the high rescue, you see. And I find with my friends who are therapists that often in the therapeutic procedure, the question of themselves in relationship to the ravaging of the earth and the ravaging of the unique soul is one that you find arising. Because surely if we are nothing else, as we see in our time, we are person, planet. Now, I once asked an old Aboriginal woman in the middle of Australia, "Maisie, how do we humans differ from wallaby and koala and emu bird?" She says, "Why, mate, we're the ones who can tell the stories about all the others." Which seemed to be one of the best definitions of humanity I'd ever heard. We're the ones who can tell the stories about all the others. Story seems to be essential to the human condition. And yet, my friends, we do know that we find ourselves at present in the midst of the most massive shift of perspective humankind has ever known. Many feel lost. Many have lost their cognitive, their emotional, their psychological bearings in space and time, in culture, in context. We seem to be lacking the cohesive story that could tell us who we are, where we came from, where we're going, and why. When story is present, it sustains and shapes our emotional attitudes. It provides us with life purposes and the momentum that comes from meaning. How many of you have ever had breakthroughs of meaning? Breakthroughs of meaning. What happens to you psychologically? And you all might want to turn off the mythic call from the other part of the universe if you like. Okay, she's got it. Okay. What happened? What happened in your energetics field? What happened in your senses when you... A freedom, a lightening, a lifting. What else? Breakdown to where? To an I don't know. So you were sent into a void for what in the hero's journey is called the belly of the whale. The belly of the... Can you help her with that phone? I think that's where she's having some problem. Thank you. What else happened with the what? A rebirth? Breakdown, rebirth, it all follows. What? Pardon? Integration. lots of things happen when this whole sensibility of a new meaning comes through. Clearly, both personally and collectively, we not only need a new story, it is happening, it is emerging in our midst. What is it? Who will tell it? Does it come as a collective knowing, or will some rare individual catch the inspiration and bring it forth? How can we invite a new mythos, a new story, where in spite of lostness and radical change, climate, economics, you name it, there's the possibility of a relief so profound that deeper structures of consciousness and psyche are tapped in both psyche and society. New patterns of connections emerges. This is the time, I do believe, of the prophetic moment, the annunciation of a new myth and the beginning of a new culture. So let us explore now the nature and the meaning of this new myth story, as well as the emerging archetypes and values that inform it. Now, as I told you, I work all over the world. I've been 160,000 miles this year. Oy. By the way, how many of you are Jewish? I'm just curious. Yeah, that's interesting. Always in this meeting, okay. Who was Catholic? Who still is? Who still is? And having a good time. It's an interesting time to be Catholic. I would have been Catholic except that in first grade, when I was sent to Catholic school, my father would give me interesting questions to ask the priest and nun. Sister Teresa, when Jesus rose, was that because God filled him full of helium? Sister Teresa, when Elijah saw the wheel, was he drunk? Sister Teresa? And then the one that really, really is the core of, especially because I'm half Sicilian, little Italian children's deep yearning to know. And this was when the Mother Superior was present. Sister Teresa? Oh, yep. She had a very bad lisp. Yep. And Denise Canzaneri said, go on. And Joey Mangiabella said, please ask. Did Jesus ever have to go to the bathroom? Well, that did it. Mother Superior ran out of the room. Sister Teresa leaped up, yelling at me, blasphemy, blasphemy, sacrilege and blasphemy. And she put up a big X. Jean Houston's Years in Purgatory. Every time I asked a question, which was daily, X. Each X was 1,000,000 years or more. At the end of the first grade, I had 300 million years in purgatory to my credit. Matter of fact, I might as well tell the rest of the story because it informed my whole life. So I go home crying and crying. My father's typing his jokes. He'd just been thrown off the Bob Hope show for an excess of high spirits. This happened a lot. And he says, what's the matter, kiddo? Oh, you know, you ran into the trolley car, the cookies in your pocket got mashed. No. You're turning green, your toes are taking root, you think you caught the chestnut blight. No. Well, what's the matter? Daddy, I have to go to purgatory for 300 million years and it's all your fault. My father howls with laughter. Great honey pot, you topped my line. You keep that up, I'll put you on the air opposite Henny Youngman. Daddy, you don't understand. Purgatory 3. And he picks me up, he scoops me up, he goes outside going, purgatory, 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 purgatory. Past the Sicilian neighbors. We were living in Brooklyn because we had no place to go because Dad lost his job. They opened up. There goes a crazy Jack. What shall you kill a bambino? Purgatory, purgatory. Where are we going, Daddy? To the movie, kiddo. You think you got problems? Ha! Wait till you see what they did to a real saint. Wait till you see how they hog-tied poor old Bernadette. And he takes me to this great movie. How many of you have ever seen it? The Song of Bernadette. Tremendous movie. Virgin Mary. Old lady sitting next to me. Every time Jennifer Jones, Bernadette, shows up, she crosses up. Oh, che bella questa sante. Oh, what a beautiful saint. Finally, the great moment. The Virgin Mary appears in the grotto to Bernadette. We're all in this ecstasy of religious rapture. And the old lady's going, oh, Santa Virginia, Santa, Santa Virginia. When suddenly this horrible whinnying mule-like laugh fills the theater, and it's coming from my father. I said, Dad, please, shh, this is the holy part, please. I know he's, but oh, that is up there on the screen playing the Virgin Mary. Who, Daddy? Linda. I met her last year in that party in Beverly Hills. Linda Darnell. Hot dog. I told her she'd go far. And he's hysterical and he can't stop. And I said, Daddy, go to the bathroom, please. Because they're all Sicilians there. They're all going, Diabolo, Diabolo, you know. Well, he comes back. It's pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. We start going home. I'm not talking to him. Hey, kiddo, you mad at me? Yes. Well, where are you going? Daddy, I don't want to tell you where I'm going. Oh, come on, come on. No, I can't tell you. You'd laugh at me. I promise I won't laugh. Yes, Daddy, you will. You can't help yourself. No, I promise. Where are you going? I'm going to see the Virgin Mary. You are? Uh-huh. You know, that's a Jim Dandy idea. I'll go with you. Grabs me by the hand, begins to pull me along, skipping down the street, singing this horrible song he made up. We're off to see the Virgin, the wonderful Virgin of Lourdes. We'll join the hordes and hordes. Daddy, stop it! This is the most important thing in my whole life. Don't you follow me? And I run home and I run upstairs. We have a guest closet, no clothes. Chicky, our dog, had 9 pups in it, and I took her out, dog nursery. Crossed myself, Virgin Mary, please show up for me in the closet. Please, 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 please. I've got to see you. I'll give up candy for a week, 2 weeks, okay? I'll close my eyes, count to 10. You be there, okay? Okay. No Virgin Mary. Chicky was bringing one of her pups back. I'm sorry, Chicky, I don't want the Virgin Mary to step on me. Virgin Mary, I'll give up chicken with garlic sauce and stuffed artichokes, my favorite food, and you be there, okay? Okay. Well, I kept counting to higher and higher numbers, and finally it was 167. Every pup was back in the closet. I gave up. I gave up. I gave up. And I remember nothing in my mind, going and sitting by the window. And there in the yard was my grandfather, Prospero Tedaro, trying to bend over to put a smudge pot under a fig tree, having trouble because, well, to be honest, he knew of his feet only by rumor, because his stomach began here, you know. And there was a plane in the sky, and suddenly, whoom, it all happened. Most important experience of my whole life. I didn't see or hear anything different, but all I can tell you is that the world moved into meaning. And I knew absolutely that I and the fig tree and my grandfather Prospero and the yard and the plane in the sky, and suddenly it opened up my Mary Jane shoes and my little chewed up red pencil and my Catholic Dick and Jane primer with the nun for the teacher, you know. And the autistic man who sold pencils outside of Bloomingdale's and New Wheat in Kansas, and the little boy in North Dakota who waved at me from the train. We were always on the train. And suddenly everything was there. Everything was there. And everything was deeply related to everything else. It was a symphony of fellowship and of integration. It sounded just like Andrew Wild's speech, quite frankly. You know, everything was integral, united being, and it was so beautiful and it was so good. And this went on forever, though technically it was probably 2 seconds, because the categories of time had strained the tensions of eternity, and the plane had moved from here to here in the sky. And I heard my father enter laughing, characteristic. But then the whole universe began to laugh. Great, great hilarity and joy. And it was only 2 years later when I could read Dante in the original, in the great closing lines, Del riso dell'universo, the joy that spins the universe. And that's what it was about. And that was a mythic event. It influenced my entire life, because mythic events sometimes are cognate with spiritual experiences. How many of you have noticed that? You've had a tremendous breakthrough, a spiritual experience, or you've evoked something for your clients that told another story. Often it came out of contradiction, as mine came out of terrible contradiction. And at the same time, there was something else that was releasing it. In my case, it was laughter. I mean, my whole childhood was one laugh right after the other. It was this laughter that shifted the perspective and opened the mythic universe for me to another reality. I tried on my hands and knees to subscribe to the old Catholic form and formula. If you pray enough, it's going to happen. Nothing happened until suddenly, in that tremendous parenthesis of release, the universe revealed itself. Now, part of the new mythos has to do, does it not, with the universe revealing itself. We discover we do not live in the living universe. The living universe lives in us. Wonderful book that I had some input into by Dwayne Elgin, The Living Universe. That we are part of a living, tremendous, dynamic process, and in certain states of balance, such as Andy talked about, or states of ecstasy, or states of love, or states of rapture, or states of deep meditation. My old friend Deepak's going to talk about it tonight. You seem to have access to mind at large, to try to reduce thought and consciousness to a couple of molecules and, some effluvium of endocrinological secretion seems to me losing the point. But, at least people get very happy and they get grants for this. But part of what is happening in our time, my friends, is that we are in the time of an emergent story because suddenly we are part of a whole cosmology. We seem to be that intersection between biology and cosmology. An intersection between biology and cosmology. And so the metaphors that evoke, that elicit, that enhance, give us something of an affirmation of our inner equipment that we did not know before, because it's science. Oh boy, Some of you also know that when I've had a mythic life. I have been often on a crashing point with some of the most interesting people of our time. And when I was 14, I ran into and knocked down a man who turned out to be Teilhard de Chardin, who lived across the street from me. And we walked on Tuesdays and Thursdays from my 14th to my 17th year. Not every Tuesday, but a lot. And he would talk about, oh, Jean, the people of your time, they're going to be taking the tiller of the world. The tiller of the world. But they cannot go directly, they cannot go directly, they have to touch every culture, every people, because what is happening is the field of mind. What is happening is the noosphere. This great living environment of our collective consciousness is happening in your time. I wish I could live long enough to see it. This noospheric reality that we're in. So here we are with an understanding of the mythic structures of cosmology, and that it makes no difference that we are less than a dot in the universal spectrum, because, wow, that's interesting, isn't it? You really make a point there. Oh, I know, I don't have to laugh, all I have to do is call. But that we are not encapsulated bags of skin dragging around dreary little egos. We are organism environments symbiotic with the fields and fields and fields of life. And that we seem to have access to quantum sensibility. One of the things about being in my strange profession, which doesn't even have a name, I run into this on the IRA trying to explain myself, but IRS, yeah, I've even forgotten. I'm speaking mythically. The IRA. Now, there's a myth. Okay. That's called a Jungian slip. Is that you have to be... How many of you find there's just so many fields you have to be aware of now? Yeah? I'd like to know what you read, too. New Scientist is very good, by the way, too. But science, neurophysiology, the new meta-technology, spirituality. We are in the time of the great harvest of the spiritual meta-technologies from all over the world. What used to take you many, many years of travel, we find in the local drugstore. The divine delicatessen that is ours, the cafeteria religion. Pick and choose, have a wonderful time. How many of you use the spiritual technologies in your work? 6 of you, come on. How many of you use 22. See, how many of you actually use the spiritual meditation? 31. Okay, that's good. Now, in being able to do all this and then bring it to what is the emerging new story for person, for planet, that is interesting. I offer you a new profession, cultural therapy. I'm not a psychotherapist, but I am a cultural therapist. And it is a tremendous profession. I call it social artistry. Just as a good artist brings focus, attention, passion, commitment, stick-to-itness, skill to the canvas or to the music paper or to the clay, the social artist does the same thing, but his or her canvas is society. And one of the best ways, and if you're really interested in the field, just email me about it. Jean, I have the world's simplest email. Can't forget it. JeanH@AOL.com. How did that happen? I was one of the first 100 members. I'm something of a nerd. If I was 20 years younger, I would weigh 400 pounds, wear bottle glasses, and be popping Twinkies in my mouth. But this whole prosthetic sense. Anyway, JeanH@AOL, and I'm going to give you some way that, by the way, after those of you, if you want to get a free talk, which I made just for you on our new story of emergence, goes way beyond anything I'm talking about here. I'll send it to you if you give me an email. Okay, I'll give you these things. Okay. Now, how do we use this cross-culturally? I'd like to begin with an event, which I'm going to put you into the event, that occurred in February of 2004. I was working for the United Nations Development Program, and I was invited to go to Albania and do something. How many of you know about Albania? The poor man of Europe? Anybody from Albania? Well, they had this wretched leader by the name of Anvars Hoxha. Anvars Hoxha. And he kept them in a victim mentality. It was always orange alert. And he told them that everybody wanted to go to the ideal Albania. So he took the money that was given to him by different world structures, 900,000 concrete bunkers he built, so that people would stay in a state of fear and have to rush to the bunker. Okay? Then when he died, he was followed by a series of rotating bimbos. I'm too old to be nice anymore. I just sort of say what it is. Yeah, I could get into lots of trouble. I was told by my staff, now, don't you say this and don't you say that. Okay. And by the way, for those who are interested, I did not download Mrs. Roosevelt from the Cosmos for Hillary Clinton. That never happened. I just helped her write a book called It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. All right. So here we had this society that was so brutalized, so victimized, and was trying to emerge and wanted to be part of the European Union. What was I going to do? I mean, the UN was there very heavily, the Red Cross, the great agencies, they seemed to have a certain amount of money, and they had all these wonderful procedures to help the society move into where it wanted to go. But they had no story beyond a materialistic one. You want to have a sufficiency of money, of, good agriculture, which was fine. Now, part of my job was to help empower the Millennium Development Goals, which have to do with what? Getting rid of infant mortality substantially by 2015, improving the health of mothers, gender equality, education, ecology, ecological sustainability, and others, partnerships, etc. Ending of war. How was I going to do this in a society that was so demythologized? That's the key word. Demythologized of its essential beingness. I needed a story. My friend, my co-worker, who's worked with me for 25 years, Peggy Rubin, who was once one of the heads of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival and a great actress. We arrive, and she falls to the ground and kisses the ground. and says the great words from Twelfth Night. What country, friend, is this? This is Illyria, lady, because ancient Illyria, the great, great Roman, was Albania. Okay. But no, Twelfth Night wouldn't work. What would work? So I went through all the stories of Albania. A lot of witches, a lot of nasty ladies, etc. And I found a great story. A great, great story. I'm going to ask you to help me with it. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful kingdom. Be the beautiful kingdom. No, you be the beautiful kingdom. Be. And there was a king. No, come. Wonderful, beneficent king. And he had a wonderful queen. Who will be the queen? Come. I have no time for self-consciousness. Please, it's permanent. Who's the queen? Come. Beautiful queen. Look who you just got. Oh, and they had a beautiful daughter. No, the princess. Okay. See, look, new family. Isn't it lovely? That's what you do here in this conference. Okay. Now, I need a real ham for this. Okay. But not yet. And they went through the kingdom giving blessings. Go through the kingdom, give blessings. Yes, everybody receive it. Blessings. Blessings. Oh, yes. La da 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 da. Thank you very much. Okay. King, queen, and princess. Yes, babe. Now, I need a ham actor. I really need somebody who has no self-consciousness at all. Who's a ham actor? Okay, ham actor, come. Okay. There was a demon. Yeah. Very good demon. Okay. No, they don't know about the demon yet. And when everybody's asleep, the demon steals away the beautiful princess. Yes, right about over here will be this. Okay. Not too far away, because you're going to be under the ground. The demon promptly goes to sleep, keeps her in chains. He's snoring away. They are bereft. They are crying. They are in such a terrible state. Everybody's crying with them. Everybody's crying. But they finally say, and I'll give you the words, if there's anyone who can rescue the princess. That's right. And she agrees. Then they can marry. 7 noble brothers show up. In this case, we don't have to worry about gender anymore. You know that. But it'd be nice to have a few men. Okay. I need the first noble brother. No time. All right. First noble brother. Second noble brother. Third noble brother. Wait. I just need 7. 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it. I got it. Okay. The first noble brother, that's you, yes, has an incredible capacity. You can hear, sense anything. You have incredible senses. Yes. So he hears the demon snoring under the ground. Snore, demon. So he goes and says, it's there. She studied with me 10 years. This is the result. Okay, come on. And says, here. It's here. The second noble brother, okay, can open the earth anywhere in seconds. So he's able to go over here and open the earth. No, the demon is still fast asleep. Okay. The third noble brother can steal anything, can get its essence. Oh, boy. That's what I like about therapists. You're all a bunch of hands. Great, come on. Yes, and so he steals the princess. He grabs the princess, yes, and steals her away. Oh, boy. Oh, yes, okay. The fourth noble brother. Okay, so you're back with the brothers. The fourth noble brother can hurl anything a great distance. So he goes and he gets the demon's shoe. the demon's magical shoe that allows him to travel great places. Shoe, grab a shoe. Yeah. Grab the shoe. And hurls it a great distance. Yay! Okay, great. The fifth noble brother, who's fifth? Okay. Fifth noble brother, okay, can build a completely impregnable castle in moments. Start building that castle. Right over here. No, not around here. We don't want to do anything with him. Okay. Build a castle. And all the brothers get in, and they get in, and everybody, and the beautiful princess gets in. Whoa, yes, impregnable. But the demon, yes, goes looking for his shoe and comes to the impregnable castle and please, I don't need to take her away. Let me just look at her for 1 second. Just a little chink, please. Well, these are pretty, not the brightest of guys, Becky, but and they're very compassionate. And they're all saying no, except one says, okay, here's a little chink. You can see her. Little chink. But of course, being a shapeshifter, he's able to shift shape, zoom, grab the princess, zoom, shift shape her, zoom, and go flying off. Whereas the sixth noble brother, where's the sixth noble brother? You're the sixth, okay? The sixth noble brother, the sixth noble brother is a marksman, has high intentionality. He's read Lynn McTaggart's book, and he shoots the demon who falls down, goes to demon hospital, and the seventh noble brother goes and he thinks he can catch anything that falls anywhere, and he catches the beautiful princess. Yay! Carries her off. Carries her off. Yes, and being the youngest and the handsomest, clearly. Yeah, but he's the youngest and the handsomest. And don't worry about metaphors get mixed in there. Okay. And they live happily ever after. And the whole group, including the demon who has been remythologized demon flying in. Yes, indeed. Yes, he's had a lot of therapy from each one of you. Therapy from each one. There's about 600 people in this room. 600 therapies, and is transformed. And all of you now go through the great convocation of your new society, giving blessings. Go ahead, everybody together. La da 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 da. Da 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 da. Sing with full voice. Sing with a full voice. Do 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 da 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 la da 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 da. Okay. Thank you. You did beautifully. Thank you. Let's give them a big hand. Okay. Now, here you see the power of myth. Whether one is dealing with a classical story, as this one is, this had tremendous effect, as I will show you. I was there for 10 days with this story. Because each of the noble brothers had the capacity to take on particular skills that open not only access to the human psyche, to the larger story, but also with really radical relevance to the time and to the problems they were in. You see, that is the beauty of the journey of myth. Whether I am working with Odysseus, my favorite story, by the way, wrote a book about it called The Hero and the Goddess, about the Odyssey, or with the passion of Isis and Osiris, or the story of Rumi, or Psyche and Eros, or the hundreds of myths that I might work with. You have to find the right one. What is all this movement that's going on? Can you hear all this movement? It's a pain in the whatever, isn't it? So there, and if I do this, You take this off.
Okay. This is called transformation.
I no longer have an identity. Isn't it wonderful? Oh, I've always wanted to have no identity. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, hopefully this is going to work. Yes? Working better? Yeah. No interesting tinkles. Things good. This doesn't ever go away. This is my archetype. This is 2,100 years old when I wear it. It's the goddess Athena. Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that sometime when I get to know you much better. Let's hope this will work. Okay. Now, what we find is that by working with myth, you not only can go deeply into your own story, but the story, the personal particulars of your everyday life, are then translated into the personal universals of great life. You inherit something of the cache of experience of Odysseus, of Isis, of Inanna, of, name some others, Dorothy, of who else? Name some mythic characters. Demeter and Persephone. Demeter, the mama. Yeah. Who? Superman. Yes, Superman. All right. Wonder Woman. I knew that was going to come. Red Riding Hood. Those actually are folk tales. They're like collapsed myths. Samson and Delilah. Yes, those are very right. Which reminds me. Luke Skywalker. I wrote in one of my books, A Passion for the Possible. I use that as the metaphor. The Luke Skywalker. Arthur. Huge mythic structures. What else? Who? Hercules and the labors, the 12 labors. Yes. Hera's stories. Yes. You can take the gods and godlings, the numinous borderline persons, all seem to have powerful stories attending them. Hermes Trismegistus, if you want to go through all that philosophy, yes. Mm-hmm. Actually written by Greek hippies in the 1st and 2nd century, by the way. I think it's very old. Okay, what else? Scarlett O'Hara. Why not? Why not? Yes. I won't think about that today. I'll think about that tomorrow. What else? Dante and Virgil, did you say? And Virgil. Can you do it in Italian? Invidia nostra vita, io trovari silva oscura. In the middle of my life, I found myself in the dark wood. How many of you are in the middle of your life and in the dark wood? 3. That's very good. Very interesting, isn't it? Okay, so you see there are many, many mythic structures. My own favorite is the Odyssey, which I love tremendously. It's just, so much so that I read it in Greek. And by the way, that's something else I might say. Often the original language of a myth carries potencies and cadences that you don't find in the English. Let me just give you an example. The opening lines of the Odyssey, which are, "Sing in me, muse, and through me tell the story of the man of many ways." Now, in ancient Greek, from 720 BC, we think it sounded something like this. Handra, moyenepe, muza, politropus. Andra of the man, moyenepe, sing at me, muse. Polytropes, many tropisms, many ways, many turnings. Let's all do it just to get into the mythic sense of it. Andra, moyenepe. Musa, Polytropus. Very good. You're very good. Ancient Greeks. Think of that for thousands of lines, and you can see why, as Plato said, the Homeric speakers, their hair stood straight up, and tears leaped out of their eyes. I mean, just to do this in the ancient form. But anyway, what we find in these great stories is this extraordinary ability. Now, to activate potential and to bring the personal particulars, I said, of everyday existence into the personal universals of great life. One of our problems today, because of television, etc., is that we don't really have the great stories. We used to have to read about them around the fire, or Grandma and Grandpa would tell us the stories. Now, no hearth. They're all down someplace else. No heart. So you get blips of stories. Just little pieces. You don't get the full story. One of the great issues, I think, in the therapeutic condition for both people and for cultures is to help them find the larger story, not just the story beyond the pathos, but the story that takes you into the mythos. I sometimes say it would be much better to mythologize rather than to pathologize. But, my friends, in mix-it, in kind of fix-it, mix-it societies, we tend to pathologize. Just as the brilliant Andy Weil, wasn't that an extraordinary talked about how we have pathologized medicine because we have lost the integrative structure of the mythic story of healing. Okay? Now, having said this, taking this great story that had a profound effect in Albania when we worked in Albania, what were we doing? First of all, we were looking at the situation, the memory of a past golden age. Almost every society has one. Whether it is one of the constructs of the deep psyche, a kind of given as a lure of becoming that great remembrance of paradise, or whether it is a kind of future that is a future possibility that is crashing on the shore of the present. We do not know, but it is there. Again, beneath the surface crust of consciousness, when you get into the internal dynamics of the psyche, you often find a story of paradise. Okay? What are some of the stories of paradise of our time? Garden of Eden, yes. Heaven, what else? Camelot, what else? The Nirvana, yes, or the great land, the beautiful land, the pure land that you find in Buddhism. That wonderful man, Thich Nhat Hanh, does a whole series of lectures and seminars in which he puts people into a remembrance of the beautiful land. What can the world be? What do you remember from the future? I sometimes give people an imaginative exercise where I take them to the year, 2100, of where the probabilities have shifted in the parallel universe and various things have worked out beautifully. And then have them remember from the future backwards. And then have them remember what they actually did to make this beautiful land possible, to make it happen. You see. And it's amazing what people come back with. It's just astonishing what they come back with. I mean, really marvelous, practical, hands-on, sensory-rich, deep ways of transforming education, politics, agriculture, so many things. There is something in us that remembers an optimal template. An optimal template for the body, for healing, an optimal template for the story of the world. Hold that. That's very important. So you would start with a memory of both the deep past and the future of this particular country, this tragic country, Albania. And so that's why we really celebrate. So what did I do? We created an environment in the hotel room. We created big hotel rooms, sort of like this. But we created an environment of beauty, of music, of song, of pictures of Albania at its best. So they were already in this environment. Very important in therapy. Can you create the outer accoutrement of more optimal being and living? So that people have images. The visual center is very important. Images of the possibility. And it's not simply The Secret. Think stuff, get stuff, regardless of kindergarten, putting a bicycle on your picture on your refrigerator and the next day it shows up. No, it isn't that sort of thing. But an optimal set of pictures. Okay, the next aspect of it. In the story, looking for the skills. Now for them, the demon was Anvers Hoxha, the terrible, terrible tyrant. but also the fact that these people were yearning for this newness, this rising, this ebullience in the brain and the mind and the psyche. It can be there. This is where you serve as therapist and as evocateur, as a midwife of the new possibilities. And you have to believe in your clients. You have to believe in it. You have to look at each one and see it. I see you there. I mean, you are so much more. I even began to invent songs for them. You are more than you pretend to be. You
are more than what most eyes can see. You are more than all your history. Look inside and you will find there's glory in your mind. Come be the kind of people you can be. You are more than what your parents bred. You are more than what's inside your head. You are more than all your something, I forget the words. Rise and become awake with every breath you take. The God in you aches to be. And it goes on and on.
You get the idea of it. So you write songs, you tell jokes, multimodal. I mean, you break up the old patterns, music, dance. I mean, things that will break down this view of reality. Margaret Mead, some of you know, she was my adopted mother. I had a wonderful mother. She had a wonderful daughter. That was our relationship. She lived with us the last 6 years of her life, off and on. And she said, Jane, I'm imitating exactly what she sounded like. Go out and harvest the human potential. So she gave me letters of introduction to elders of tribes, and I went to many tribes. She sent me, now this is very important, she sent me to a tribe in West Africa to live with them. Jane, find out why they have no neurosis as we understand it, and really no history of war. It was a Yoruba-related tribe. I used to tell everybody where it was, and then they complained and said, don't tell it. They're selling McDonald's or something there. Okay. So I went there, and I lived with them for a while, and indeed, they were doing things very differently. Very differently. They were solving a problem when I was there on sanitation. And first, they didn't say A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, subsection 3, 4. Not at all. They sang it back and forth, antiphonical chorus. You'll do it with me. Hey, yay, yay, yay.
Hey, yay, yay.
Hey, yay, yay, yay.
Hey, yay,
Hey, yay, yay. Hey, yay, yay. Yay, 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 yay. And they drummed it. Dump, butter, dump, butter, dump, butter, butter, butter. And then they all got up, everybody up, everybody up. And they danced it, but it was the chicken dance, that chicken dance. Hey, yay, yay, yay. Hey, yay, yay, yay. Hey, yay, yay. Hey, yay, yay. Yay, 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 yay. And so they danced it, and they sung it, and they drummed it, and they envisioned it, and they saw it. And then they all had the solution. What were they doing? They were cooking on more burners. They were cooking on more burners. Why does talking therapy only go so far? Sing it, dance it, draw it, sculpt it. Reality is a juicy bird trying to emerge from within the depths of the psyche. Trying to emerge. And that's what happened. So I studied many other cultures, and I saw the ways that these different cultures use different capacities to bring to birth new ways of being. Now, in this great story, who emerges? They call for help. Help! Your clients are calling for help. Help! Help! What skills do you bring to them? Of the 7 brothers, the first brother does what? How many remember? Here's acute hearing. Acute. And many of you have had courses in what? All kinds of hearing. Appreciative listening. Yes, what else? Compassionate listening and all that. Since you all know that, I'm not going to go there. But what I'm going to say is, do you bring the whole plenum of your sensory equipment to bear? I once made a study of 55 of some of the most creative, sustained creative people in North America. Among my research subjects were, for 6 years, Margaret Mead. For 20 years, Joseph Campbell. Buckminster Fuller, whose last design, the last thing he ever designed, I live in now. I live in a double-dome house in Ashland. Linus Pauling, Jonas Salk, and a whole lot of people whose names you wouldn't know, but they had high sustained creativity. What did I discover? They were all sensory ecstatics. They, in one way or another, they amplified their sensory equipment. They were like litmus paper. They were just taking in all the time. They were spelunkers in the caves of their creativity. They were archaeologists of their own mind, of their own capacity. I mean, I won't ask this question, so don't raise your hand, but how many of you have forgotten about your body and senses or given it short shrift because you've had to read so much or do so much or just gotten into galloping muchness? You know, and the self, poor self, has been in their body-mind system put aside. Well, these people weren't. So they had tremendous skills of high sensory capacity. High sensory capacity. Margaret Mead was the best of all. She was also a synesthesiac. She could hear color, see sound, touch, taste, smell time. So she had the child's brilliance. So one of the things that we do is that we ask you to expand your sensory equipment. Not just your outward sensory equipment, which you do by going into nature or really looking and contemplating, but also your inner sensory equipment. Again, in my study of high creatives, I find that in most cases, not all, but most cases, they have access to internal sensory dimensions. How many of you can close your eyes and see an apple? How many of you can taste it? Now. Smell it? Can you hear the crunch? Yes? Can you feel its texture? See, you have that kind of, and it really takes that kind of possibility. So, I'll give you an example. Going back and forth, we don't have. How did I go on for so long? Anyway, we don't have the time to really take you through a full exercise, but I'll just give you a little bit of one. All right, we'll start with taste, and I'll challenge and you challenge me back, okay? So, but you're participating, so you're all part of this as we do this. Okay. So, Marty, I want you to taste an angel food cake topped with minted dark chocolate mousse and whipped cream. So she will taste it, and so will you. Oh, my. Yeah. Then you will challenge me with the taste.
Jean, I want you to taste dark truffles drizzled with the most delectable herbs from your garden.
Ah, real truffles from under the ground.
Yes. A top roast duck with orange sauce.
Okay. How about a juicy pear?
And what about fresh mint ice cream?
Yeah, my favorite. All right, I want you to taste a lasagna with not just meat sauce, mozzarella dripping, maybe 2 kinds of cheese, assaggio, with also lots of basil.
Fresh basil. And I would like for you to taste dripping chocolate on top of caramel underneath vanilla bean ice cream.
What did they say about type 2 diabetes? I'm already tired. Okay.
Yes.
But you get the idea of tastes so that you activate taste. How many of you were tasting some of these things? Okay. All right. Let's take touch. All right. I'd like you to touch, Marty, the long bony nose of a horse. Pat the horse.
I would love for you to touch the skin of a newborn baby.
Marty, I'd like you to plunge your hands into a barrel of potato chips and break up as many as you can.
And I would love for you to feel your feet on the new snow, the first of winter.
Without shoes and socks?
You can pick.
All right. I would like you to plunge your hands into warm, soppy mud.
And I would love for you to feel warm water of a shower over your head.
I would like you to move through a vat of warm honey, but with an ice cube melting on the top of your head at the same time. You get the idea. But you see, as you do these things, what are you developing neurologically? What are you doing? You're developing access to internal imagery states. It's, by the way, one of the best ways of activating imagery. Everybody does this guided imagery stuff, which is fine, but it really only works well if the person that you're doing this with has access to inner imagery perceptions. So before you do any kind of big guided imagery trip, you might want to help activate the senses back and forth and engage them as shareholder, stakeholder, so that they are doing it with you. You might get some surprises you don't like, but anyway, that's the problem of being in the profession you're in. Sensory exercise. We find that when people develop internal sensory equipment, they have the hooks and eyes to catch the creative process, which I believe is going on beneath the surface crust of consciousness, literally all the time. My deep example that I love is Mozart. Now, if you know anything about Mozart, in many ways he was very silly. He told dirty jokes, he farted in public, and he had a long, silly streak, yes? Because he was empowered as a child for too long. They took him all over Europe. I mean, talk about the inner child. He was the inner child cubed, or in excess. He was raised to another party. Well, anyway, and so Salieri would say to him, how can such a silly little man like you write such extraordinary music? And he said, it's because when I compose, I enter into myself, into the realm of music. And it's all there, whatever I want, a symphony, a concerto, it's all there, zusammen, all at once. It's all there. And I come back and then I write it like mad, or I play what I heard. And whence it comes from, I know not, but I thank the good Lord. It is at least Mozartish. And what we find, friends, is that as you develop high internal sensory equipment, okay, that goes hand in hand with a creative intention. I may actually show this on Sunday when I do some of the possible human and the possible therapist. When you develop this with high intention, then as you have developed these senses, develop your inner senses in this kind of interaction, take a project that you want to do, that you want to create, and dance it and sing it. I was promised music. Do I get music here? Do I get music here? Can I give you something? Well, I got music. They said I'd have music. I always bring music. Always. How can you live without music? Let's do number 3. Okay, I think this is the right one. Let me just hope that that's number 1. Oh, that's not MSG2. Where's the other one? Do you see it? I don't see it. Okay, well, never mind. Let's see. This is number 1. Let's see what we have. Number 1. I don't have. This is number 1. Somebody took the other. Okay, use number 6. Can you do that quick? Everybody stand up. Stand up. Take something that you want to achieve. Something that you want to do pretty soon. Something you really need to, okay? Now, I want you to see it. I want you to touch it. I want you to hear it. Oh, friends, I want you to be it. I want you to be it. I want you to see, touch, hear, smell, be, act out, dramatize. Okay? Have you got it on, sir? Number 6. Hopefully. But immediately start. Start just moving with it. Actually, eyes closed. Nobody can see you but me, and I'm a little nearsighted. Bring it up. Bring up the music. Act it out. Dramatize it. Be it. See it. Smell it. Dream it. Dramatize it, see it, dance, feel it, smell it, taste it, be it. Act it out, act it out. Let it fill you, fill your bones, your nervous system. You are that. You are that intention. You are the enactment of it. Thank you. But do you see, you're just getting the idea. Do you see what it's like? See what it's like? To internalize, to bring those senses to bear, and then to celebrate it, to use your whole body. Yes? And celebrate each other. Celebrate their intention. For each other. You get the idea. Now the second. So you develop the inner senses, and you'll find that your outer senses, because of neurological equipment exchanging and growing, you will find that the outer senses will begin to increase as well. And you begin to develop capacities for radical empathy. Of course, you have to know how to cut down on radical empathy, too. The second brother, what did the second brother do? Open the earth. Very great mythic pattern that you find in many myths. The opening of the earth, the story of Inanna, the descent of Persephone, that descent into the inner world. But in this case, what I tried to do is to look at 4 major levels, which evidently my staff said I was going to do. Which is, in any situation, as for example in Albania, I said, what, after increasing the senses, what does it look like? Tell me about Albania. Draw pictures of it. Draw pictures of what you love about it. Tell me what you love about Albania. And so they would draw the sensory things of Albania. So, for example, you might want to do something about the sensory. Now, where do you live, Marty? You live where?
Santa Barbara.
Okay, sensory, quick. Describe Albania purely from a sensory...
Santa Barbara. The ocean tides, the moon rising over the mountains, and the glow of the downtown rooftops in between.
Beautiful, okay. And you could do 100 more.
Yes.
And you might want to do that around where you live, and also around issues that you have, or your profession, so that you get a good sensory base of what it is, okay? Then I would say psychologically. Psychologically, describe Santa Barbara.
Open, innovative, lots of new things, lots of money, lots of contribution, and community, a deep sense of community.
Okay. And that you would do the same for where you live, or perhaps within the situation of your clients, the psychological environment, okay? Mythic and symbolic, would you describe Santa Barbara?
Oh, wow. It's the myth of the ancient and the new coming together all at once. It is both Demeter and the earth, saving the earth, and Persephone, the young, coming back to life.
Okay, very nice. Spiritually, so you always have to look at what's the story, what's the symbol.
The spiritual beingness of Santa Barbara is very, very rooted in a cosmology of pantheism, Eastern, Western, fundamental, and brought together in a sense of deep presence and deep meaning.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So you take 4 levels: sensory, physical, psychological, and historical. Mythic and symbolic, that's the 3rd level. And the 4th level being spiritual. Okay? Spiritual, if you don't like the word spiritual, integrative or unitive. And by looking at the 4 levels in any issue, dimension, culture, client, you begin to see that a richness of context, of structure, of the infrastructure of the psyche itself, of person and of culture begins to emerge. Because people often just don't think in those ways. So you are thickening the brew by doing that. Okay, so that's the 2nd brother, the opening of the earth itself. The 3rd brother, what did he do? He stole the princess. He got the essence back. Now, there's been a whole lot of thing about essence. I live in Ashland, Oregon. How many of you know Ashland, Oregon? It's a great town. To my right, over the hill, lives Gary Zukav. Okay, seat of the soul. To my left, down the block, lives Neil Donald Walsh. Conversations with you-know-who, you know. And there's Ilana Rubenfeld and the rethinking of the soul and the body. So it is a soul-infested place. That we have the Oregon Shakespeare Festival also helps, you know. But there is a lot of literature, as you know, about soul, about spirit, about essence that has arisen in our time. Why? Why would you say? Why so much soul-directed therapies and psychologies?
It's what people are yearning for. And in my experience, when we get beneath the everyday story, there is this longing for a larger story. There is a longing for meaning. There's a longing for connection of more than just me.
Okay, very nice, very nice. The longing for connection, the longing for getting to the essence of things. I use a word to describe this. I call it, it's the ancient Greek word entelechy. Entelechy. It's the entelechy of an acorn to be an oak tree. It's the entelechy of a popcorn kernel to be a fully popped entity. It's the entelechy of a baby to be a grown-up being. That's the obvious form. But then when we get to depth levels of destiny, purpose, soul, and soul-driven living, learning, see, all the fundies are getting into it too, you find that it is also as if we are coded in some way with a dramatic potential for unfolding into higher orders of being and reality. And this is why you find this rife in many cultures. It is not just a North American phenomenon, I assure you. I find it in Europe, I find it in Australia, New Zealand, I find it in parts of China. They're getting very interested in this. I find it in, even in Africa, certainly in Egypt. I mean, there is this rising interest in soul, in spirit, in essence. A lot of the Sufi teachings, of course, have to do with Almas. How many of you know Almas's work? Wonderful work in the exploration of essence. Now, I think of entelechy as a given in the body-mind psychic system, whether you call it soul or spirit. The problem with the English language is that it is so limited as to psychological descriptors. It's great for nature. It's one of the great languages for nature. But you just look at, we say truth. In ancient Greek, it was aletheia, not lethe, the waters of forgetfulness. Not drinking of the waters of forgetfulness is the word for truth. And a lot of the ancient languages, I'm a student of ancient languages. I'm not very good in French or Spanish, but I'm really good in ancient Greek, and I even read Old Egyptian. It says a lot about how strange my mind is. But I think the reason that I love these ancient languages is because they are so filled with popping, explosive, meaning, soul-driven forms. I mean, they are like, let me find a metaphor that's rich enough. Some of these languages are like the outsparkings of a trodden star. You see, I had to go to nature in English to be able to find what they do, you see. Now, given this, you are also the outsparkings of the trodden star, the trodding that is the life. What is this essence that is in each one of you? I like to think of it as yourself as if you'd had 1,000 years to do your human homework. It's an ontological given. I mean, metaphors fritter and fry when we try to describe it because it exceeds that, this whole sense of essence. But when you get in touch with essence, and if you can sustain it for longer periods of time, things move, things change. Synchronicities abound. I mean, it is a phenomenal thing. I'd like to show you, we're going to use the music again, and I think it is, get back to my infinite purse here. It'll be number 6. And I'll tell you when to start. Get number 6 ready. Okay? Number 6. You hear me over there? Wave? Okay. If you'd like to stand up, I'd like to show you an essence exercise. To begin with, I'd like you to put your hands out so. Hands in front of you. And for the time being, a healing fiction, as the dear old Jim Hillman says, who also wrote a great book on essence called The Soul's Code. A healing fiction that's standing in front of you is this high essential being called the entelechy, the dynamic, purposeful essence being of your life, and who is looking upon you with so much love, with such deep seeing, looking upon you with such love, empowerment, knows your life, knows the failings and the findings, knows the lostness and the gathering foundness, knows you in the depth of who and what you really, really are. The entelechy. And you feel yourself so deeply seen, understood, loved, great love, loving you so much, empowering you, acknowledging the fullness of who you are, and seeing beyond the surface into the great, great spectrum of delight, of skill, of beauty that is your own being. And you may even feel that this essence, this entelechy, who let us call, in Rumi's terms, the friend, the great friend, And you may even feel it as palpable, as if you are being touched, evoked, loved back into the fullness of your being, so that you become a more than adequate steward of this, the most critical time in human history. Being called through, being evoked, knowing yourself charged, ignited, called into higher beingness by this most beloved of all friends, the Entelechy. Oh, yes. Loved, understood, seen. And you really feel yourself charged and loved and so deeply empowered. And so you are asked to do something very strange, asked to turn around, actually physically turn around 180 degrees here, facing the back. But keep those hands up, for now you are in the place of the wise one, the Entelechy, the essential self. You are in the place of essence. And in this place of essence, oh friends, you are touching your human hands that are standing there and still is standing there in front of you. But you're touching your human hands as essence, as great being, as the one who's had 1,000 years to develop. And from this place of wisdom and compassion, you look upon and you empower your human, your local self. You empower that local self beautifully, beautifully, beautifully. And feeling this empowerment going back and forth, feeling it so beautifully arising, you now step back, turn around 180 degrees, turn around. And you receive deeply. You receive deeply. You receive. And as you receive, would you move the music to number 7, please? And receive now fully the beauty of what is being given you. Receive the fullness of your life. Receive the qualities that are yours that may have just been lying there in latency. Receive the soul of who and what you really are. And know that from this moment forth, should you choose, receiving now from this great essential being, you are being called forth into the deeper path, into the fuller life, into the richer use of your skills and your profession, into the knowing that you are one who can profoundly make a difference. Profoundly make a difference. And you receive this. And you receive this. And you accept it if you wish or not. But know yourself as blessed, as evoked, as one who is part of the magnificent humanity that is the emerging of the new story and the new human. Know that you are this as you now are in friendship with the great friend, the Entelechy. And now opening your eyes and looking around at all these other great essence, invested people, looking around and seeing them. Oh, I see you. You are something else again. Yes. Bringing up the music. And that's the Entelechy exercise. How do you feel? Now, I see some of you squirming. So what I'm going to do is give you, wait a minute, a 5-minute break, okay? How's that? I'm going to give you a 5-minute break. And let me just show you this, or you can come up and get it. Are there more? Are there more? Okay. Those of you who would like for me to, I recently gave a really good lecture on the emerging story and the new story of the body. And I will send it to you if you just give me your email and give me back the things, okay? And here's some. Do we have more? Did you get the rest? I didn't bring enough. Are they giving it out? Good. But give it back to me, else it'll never arrive anywhere. Yes, I remember. 5-minute break, that's all. Friends, if we ran out, I'm surprised. I didn't think there'd be more than 40 people here. You ran out. Oh, you have more. Look what happened! Bravo, bravo! Look what's there. Just open it up. We found more. We found lots more. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start in 2 minutes. We found lots more. Let's give them here. Where are they? Open it up. Rip it open. Was that the end of them? How'd that happen? My father used to say, "Why are you talking about myth? Nobody's interested in myth." We got more.
So I do this radio show. I interview people who make their living or their life with their art.
Oh, wonderful.
So would you let me interview
Sure.
you? Are you going to be...
Here, find me, and I'll do it. I'm all over the place. But
Yeah,
yes.
well, I know that. So, okay, so if I capture you... in a
You
moment,
capture me, I'll do it.
I just want to introduce myself. I'm Kate Rose Gladstone.
Yes.
Just died.
I'm sorry. Blessings
I
on
wanted
her.
to say hi.
Blessings, blessings, blessings on her. Thank you. Turn off my...
Say hi, I'm Ginger. I lived with Robin Media in Tuscaloosa 28 years ago.
When you came, and you're why I'm here. I came to see you. It's been fun.
Thank you.
What do you think of the person who has the youngest son and the youngest grandson all born on?
I think it's fascinating that you have a family that's in the stars. All right, friends, I'm about to begin again for my best exercise of all. Ooh, the hurling of the shoe. Give you another couple of minutes. Oh my, how'd that happen? Marty, keep one out because I probably have to manufacture some more.
Yes, we have some right here.
Okay. Let me keep one. Oh, here we have these. Great. Here, give it to Marty. Thank you. All right, I'm about to begin with the most exciting thing of all. Yes. Yes. Did you just hurt something? What did you do? I don't know if I can get away from this. Come to me afterwards and I'll speak. I'm a full-service organization here. Okay, while we wait for people to come back, any questions, ideas, harangues, revelations? The best exercise
Let's
of all
use it.
coming up.
Is this microphone on?
Is this microphone
Can we turn that?
on?
Let me give.
Here.
No. You got it? Okay.
Oops.
For
Hi, Jean.
those who didn't get them, here are some more extras. Extras.
You get lots of extras now. Yeah.
Okay.
What was the song that you played the first time for the first exercise?
It was the Moldau.
Thank you.
We have more. Goodness, I didn't expect all these. All right. Yes, sir.
And you're right.
Thank you. All right.
Other questions?
Any questions? The first song was the Moldau. The second song was the Pachelbel Canon. And by the way, my website is jeanhouston.org. And you'll find out about the Mystery School, where I do my major work, the social artistry programs, the salons, and the huge event that we're going to be give for almost no money. Actually, we're in California, January 22nd, 24th.
Yeah.
We're giving it away, essentially. on the Magnificent
Yeah.
Human.
We need some for the guys in the back.
Guys in the back. Good. You turn them into Marty. We're right here. Yeah. Good. All right, my friends, I am about ready to start again. My idea of bathroom breaks is time distortion. Okay. You can't hear me in back, you come up front. Come up front. Does it sound better in the back now?
Here's an extra.
No questions. How does that happen?
Thank you.
Okay, question. I'll repeat it. Yeah.
Yes, my question is, do you feel at some point in the future of mankind it would be possible to have a lack of racism? And to have a lack of racism?
Well, can only hope so. I can't say that I know that. But frankly, I believe that with China opening, inside of 100 years, we're all going to say goodbye to brown eyes. We're going to be many, many colors. I mean, that's what seems to be happening, this hybridization. How many of you are something and something else? There we go. I'm Scotch, Sicilian, and a little bit of Cherokee. And there was also, way back there, a Jewish Indian, whose name, so help me, was the equivalent of Scarecrow Rosenblatt. We're all hybrid. How many of you have an old family in America, a family that's been here 200 years or more? Me too. We're all part Indian and we're all part black. You can be almost assured of that. Yeah. So I think that what is happening with the meeting and matching of cultures, the diversity that is occurring in our time is not only a new order of hybrid vigor, maybe, but certainly a sense that we are crossing the great divide of otherness as this planet gets together. As it gets together, not just the way it used to, just in travels, but certainly through the internet, we are moving toward a planetary civilization with high individuation of culture. That's what I believe is happening. At least I think it's the only thing that can happen if we're going to survive our time. Climate alone, climate change alone. Blessings on you in Copenhagen. May you listen to the grassroots that is really trying to make a difference. Yes? Blessings. So yes, I think it is inevitable. And it may take another 50 years. But it won't take much more than that. That's a drop in time. Yeah. You are from where? Where are you from? Yes. From where? From? But before that? Yes, so the stands. You were in one of the stands. Yeah. Which means you have everybody in you. Just about. The world face. Beautiful world face. All right, friends, we're back. How are you? How are you doing? Good. I don't hear any more questions. Oh, you have a question. Okay, sorry.
We have two more.
Two more.
Can I talk about the education myth? Do we need one for public education in this country?
For health education.
Health education? Public education.
Mm-hmm. Public education.
You know how a lot of the little boys in elementary school are given Ritalin and all the drugs because they
don't know their non-drug self by the time they're 14, yes.
Yeah. What about all those different ways that you were trying to tell us about the senses and get in touch with different problem solving? Don't you think a lot of them are doing that? And our school system says, but they're not fitting into the box that we have them in. Can you comment about what we can do?
As Andy Wiles said, that is a pharmaceutical thing. Back in my day, we used to call it noisy kids, I just think in the subculture of the Catholic Church that if Francis of Assisi and Teresa of Avila had been born in our time, they would never have known their non-drug personality. Teresa is a nut by any psychiatric present standards, and they would have thought Francis was totally dysfunctional. and they would have been kept drugged. How many great minds do we lose? This brings us to another subject. I have never, ever, ever met a stupid child. I've met incredibly stupid systems of education that diminish, that deny, that narrow. Part of my work around the world has been to recreate education. Thousands of new schools in Bangladesh based on the culture with art back as central to the curriculum. Because, friends, if you're dancing and singing and emoting information, if you're doing all that, what happens? What happens? You're not stupid. I mean, everybody, we are not as different from each other. We're not just flaky. You think you're flaky. You're snowflakey in terms of the differentiations between your mind, your body, and somebody else's. But if a child is dancing information, if they are singing it, if they are enacting it, in one of my books, Jump Time, I talk about Shakespeare's education. I'm an old Shakespeare buff. And he went to one of the great schools of the world, the great school in Stratford, where he was under the influence of Erasmus. They learned controversi, meaning they would take different positions like Brutus and Caesar, and they would play them. They translated back and forth between Latin and English. They were sensory rich. He was in this market town where so much was happening in the plays, and he learned weaving, and he learned baking, and he learned his father was a glove maker. He learned politics. His father was an alderman. Of course he was Shakespeare. People say Bacon was Shakespeare. Bacon went to Oxford and was wealthy. He didn't have that intensity of experience, of multi-sensory education that created the Bard of Avon. You know. By the way, talking about that, may I just respond to you in a different way about language? I know you're next, I'm sorry. But yes, if we can encourage hands-on, sensory-rich education so that children grow to have the capacities to deal with this, the most complex time in human history. Other times thought they were it. They're wrong. This is it. I would like to give you just an example that occurs to me. English. Fascinating language. Not good psychologically, but great in other ways. A lot of English has been diminished. You're aware of that. A lot of technical words are added. But you look at a McGuffey reader of 1885, and boy, it is different. And the sounds were different. One of my studies, I'm just perennially curious, is Renaissance languages and what they sounded like. English in Shakespeare's time did not sound like English today. Example. And I'm going to make a point here for your therapeutic thing. You go to a method acting version of Hamlet, okay? You take a speech, and you might hear Hamlet. Now I'm alone. Whew. Is it not monstrous, this player here, but in a fiction, in a dream of passion, you know, could force his soul so to his own conceit that from her working, wow, all his visage wan. Tears in his eyes. You know, and you see this method acting that has some internal thing, but it is not communicating. If you were 1600 at the Globe Theatre with Richard Burbage playing Hamlet, you would have heard something very different. You want to hear what it sounded like? Okay, English of the year 1600 sounded very different. It was very hammy too. No, I am alone. Ah, what a rogue and peasant slave am I. Is it not monstrous that this player here, but in a fiction, in a dream of passion, could so force his soul, so to his own conceit, that from her working, whole his visage waned, tears in his eyes, distraction in his aspect, a broken voice, and his whole function suiting with forms to his own conceit, and all for nothing, for Hecuba. Ha! What's Hecuba to he, or he to Hecuba that he should weep for her? Huh? What would he do had he the motive and the cue for passion that I have? He would drown the stage with tears, and cleave the general ear with horrid speech, make mad the guilty, and appall the free at eye. A dull and muddy-beddled rascal, peak like Jonah dreams, unpregnant of my cause, and can say nothing, no, not for a king, upon whose most dear life a damned feat was made, and I a coward. For it cannot be that I am pigeon-livered and lack gall to make oppression bitter, or ere this I should have. I did all the region pates with his slaves awful. Oh, bloody, bawdy, villain, remorseless, treacherous, lecherous, kindless villain. Oh, vengeance. Oh, what an ass am I. This is most brave that I, the son of a dear father murdered, prompted to my revenge by heaven and hell, must like a whore unpack my words and call a cursing to the sky. Fie on it, But I have heard that guilty creatures sitting at a play have by the very cunning of the sea been struck so to the soul that soon they have proclaimed their malefactions. A murder, though it hath no tongue, will speak with most miraculous organ. Oh, I'll have these players play something like the murder of my father before mine uncle. I'll observe his looks. I'll tend him to the quicker. If he but blanch, I know my course. The spirit I have seen may have been the devil. And the devil hath power to assume a pleasing shape, yea, out of me weakness and my melancholy hath he the very power that abjures me to damn them all. I'll have grounds more relative than this. The play's the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. And that 16th century speech. Look at the language. Look at the language. Look at the way it's used, the guttural, the whole thing. I really believe that one of the reasons the Renaissance happened is because people use language differently. The brain became a sonic chamber of what does my friend call it? Resurrection and resonance, you know. It wasn't, hey, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you want to do? Let's go to the mall. Oh, friends. So, no, come back here. Don't go away. Come back. Where were you? She was just sitting there. Who was there? Somebody was just there. She vanished. You had an interesting question that you don't want to ask anymore. I will turn it into a Shakespearean poem. Come. Where is she? She was just there. I'm looking for you. Where did she go?
Jean, while we're waiting, I was just going to say we do have many, many opportunities, and I'm reminded of my 2-year-old granddaughter whose father speaks only German to her. Her mother speaks English. Her best friend is Vietnamese, and she speaks sign language and Italian. She's 2 years old.
That's wonderful.
And so she has the richness, and we half the time don't know. We know exactly what she's saying, but we don't know what language it is. So we say, is that the way Poppy says it, or is it the way Mommy says it? But she is gaining that richness, which gives us a cross-cultural understanding.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I need to move on, but I'll find another place. I wish the lady who was there would show up, who was asking, where were you? Where were you? You're all pointing the opposite direction. It's wonderful. Where was she? You were there. You were standing there? Who was standing there a moment ago? Now she's gone over there. She's moving. It's wonderful. I wish you'd show up again. It would mean a lot to me. Well, then come back. I'm sorry if I'm a dog person, and I talk to dogs all the time. So if I say sit, come, stay.
Dr. Houston.
Wait, I'm asking this lady was first, yeah. Jean, by the way, I have 2 doctorates, and so they cancel each other out. Yes.
After that wonderful performance, I was just stunned, so I decided to move on. But my question was, in doing that exercise where we needed to dance and sing something we wanted to create, that was very difficult for, I think I saw a lot of people, it seemed like it was difficult for me.
Practice.
It was difficult for me.
Is what?
It was difficult for me.
Yes.
What I discovered was that I just wanted to continue dancing and singing without thinking about all of that.
Great. You drop it in. You drop the intention in like a seed crystal into a supersaturated solution. By itself, autonomously. It's called the automatisms of the creative process. It will develop. Just continue dancing and singing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, when I came up and got one of those slips of paper, a woman got one. And she got the last one that was on the stage. And she said, as she was going away, it's like the golden ticket.
Do you know what it is? What?
It was like the golden ticket. And
this is a golden ticket?
Yeah, and so she was evoking Willy Wonka, the myth of Willy Wonka. And my point is that when we get into this realm, the psyche starts to grab something and pulls it back to the here and now and says, look, it's like the golden ticket. And I'm wondering if, in working with clients, if you can speak a little bit about evoking that in them and pulling that out of them.
Okay.
And helping them with that.
In fact, that relates to the next person I'm going to do. Next thing I'm going to do. Okay. I'm supposed to have signed sheets if I bring you up for examples. Or I won't do anything psychologically. It'll only be mythic. Okay. That's how we solve that. Okay. Now, the fourth brother. What does he do? Hurls the shoe, hurls the shadow, which of course comes back. This gives us an opportunity when I'm working with cultures or individuals to look at the big shadow issues. Okay? But to look at them in a very different way. Okay. To do this, I have to refer to another myth. One of you mentioned Arthur. How many of you know the Arthurian stories? In the Arthurian canon, there is a story called The Marriage of Dame Ragnall and Sir Gawain. How many of you know that story? It's a great story. Okay. Now you have to help me with this because I have to tell it as it seems that Arthur, the king, and his beautiful nephew, Sir Gawain, beautiful man, clean in thought and word indeed, rescues all people in distress. You meet a Boy Scout of the first order. And they are in their greens, meaning they don't have armor on, and they are riding through the forest. And they come to a ford in the river. And at the ford, there is an 8-foot giant who won't let them go by, named Sir Somer Gomer Jower. He says, "Ha ha ha ha, Arthur and little Gawain. Wonderful. Now you have to fight me again. I hate this Camelot baloney, round tables. What a lot of garbage. Come on. Virtue. Come on, you gotta fight me. But we're unarmed men. Well, so what? There's two of you, one of me. But it says in the knight's manual, sir, that that a good knight does not fight unarmed men. Oh, shucks. All right, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a challenge. You like a challenge? You like a challenge? Yeah. You have 1 year from today to answer a particular question. And should you get it wrong, and I think you will, you have to fight me, and I'm going to have to fight you. Yes, all right, sir, what is the question? The question is, what do women really want? Well, sire, you go in this direction, I'll go in that. We'll ask as many people as can. Excuse me, old lady, what do women really want? No,
women want soup, and women want to be taken care of.
All right. Thank you. Send soup. Little girl, what do women really want? I want somebody to come and teach me kung fu so I can beat up my big brother who's beating on me. Yeah, that's what I want. All right, we'll send somebody. Madam, what do women really want? Oh, what I want is a fur coat, And I want a Mercedes-Benz, a blue. Madam, it is the 6th century. I'd like a 6th century Mercedes. Yes, madam. Oh. Here we are in the red light district of Camelot. And here's Margarita. Margarita, what do women really want? Oh, Sonny. You think I could ever really tell you? Oh, here we are at the convent. There's Blessed Mother Mechthilda. Blessed Mother, what do women really want? Oh, my son, I don't think I could ever really tell you. Oh, here we are at the palace. Oh, Guinevere, gracious woman, gracious queen, what do women really want? Ask Lancelot, he knows. Well, they have 20,000 answers, and it is the day before they dance. Well, sire, I don't think we have the right answer. No, I'm afraid we don't. Sire, I have heard that there is a woman who is wondrous strange and very wise, who lives by a fountain in the forest, a well. Let me go ask her. Goes in. Excuse me, madam. Sees a shape that he vaguely sees is female. What do women really want? Her turns around, the ugliest creature he has ever seen. She has boar's teeth, and she drools, and she has warts upon warts, and her eyebrows are so long they're braided to the top of her head. I know the answer. Why aren't you a pretty one? I know the answer. What will you give me if I should tell you? On my honor as a good and perfect knight, I'll give you whatever you ask. You will? Yes. Will you marry me then? I mean, in front of the whole court, not one of these back of the bushes things. On my honor, I will. Well, then, I'll tell you. What women really want is sovereignty. Sovereignty. What exactly is that, madam? You're not very smart, are you? Well, actually, Merlin does the thinking back at the court. Well, some would say it's choice, and that's true, but it's more than choice. It's choice plus a woman's relationship to the land, and the land's relationship to the woman, and the great resonance between the two of man, a woman, and resonance and earth, and she becomes earth mother, earth structure, she becomes the process of the unfolding of the universe. That is sovereignty. Yes, madam, that sounds right. I'll be back. You'll be back. Here's the 20,000 answers, a Somer Gomer Jar. Oh, you stupid men, you don't know how to ask me. Dumb. All right, now you gotta fight. Come on. Well, one last answer. Well, what is it? What women really want is sovereignty. Oh, nuts. You've been talking to my sister. Oh, have a nice day. Well, next day, of course, is the wedding. There is the beautiful Sir Gawain in green and gold. There's the ugliest woman in the world in a beautiful wedding dress. You have to sing the wedding song. Look what I got, or something. They get to the priest. Will you, poor Sir Gawain, take this creature, Dame Ragnall? On my honor as a good and perfect knight, I will. And will you, Dame Ragnall, take poor... Get on with it, sonny. You betcha. Now let's eat. Okay. Medieval feast, a elk stuffed with a boar, stuffed with a deer, stuffed with a squirrel, stuffed with a bird, boiled in honey and pepper. She's voracious. People throw up watching her eat. Then it's time for the first night. Poor Sir Gawain lies there like a sepulchre. She is strangely silent. She is subtly shy. But around 4:30 in the morning. Yes, madam. Aren't you supposed to do something? Like what, madam? Well, you give me a little kiss, maybe. Kiss. Yes, madam, I will do that, and I will do more. Oh, I like the sound. More. So he leans over and he gives her a little peck on top of her head. And then he pats her on the top of her head. But where's those steely wires? And he feels her face. Beautiful face, beautiful smell. In shock, he draws back, and there is the most beautiful woman he has ever seen in his whole life. And he says, well, where is she? Where's the Dame Ragnall? And she says, oh, my darling, I am Dame Ragnall. You sure don't look like Dame Ragnall. Well, it's because I've been ensorcelled, my darling. And yes, you see, a wicked sorcerer put a curse on me, and we have a little bit of a problem, you see. I can be beautiful for you at night and ugly for the others during the day. Or I can be beautiful for the others during the day and ugly for you at night. Which would you like? You choose. Oh, Sir Gawain, you have given me sovereignty, and now I can be beautiful all the time. Now here you have a classic mythic structure, don't you? You have the road of trials. You have the great question, the obstruction, that the monster at the gate, the realm of amplified power, and you finally have the marriage with the beloved, you know. But the big issue here is that beneath Dame Ragnall, as part of her psyche, is the most beautiful woman in the world. But it really took an understanding and a willingness to go the length with her. We hear in that 15th century manuscript, "And they made merry till midday," was the conclusion to it. And this brings up this fascinating issue, which I run into in people and cultures all the time. And it's one of the great mythical transference forms. It is that often the worst quality of individuals and cultures and organizations contains what has been the repression of the best quality, or the transformation of the best quality. I will use myself as the exemplum horriblum. If I look at my own worst quality, I'm hypersensitive. Terrible for somebody who's a public person. Terrible. And part of it, I think, came when I was in the womb, you know, and unfinished. And so that, I mean, you drop a pin, I will literally feel it, you know, through my system. And it was really, has made life rather difficult for me, as you can imagine, because if you're out there, you're catching hell all the time. That's just the way it goes. Be happy that you're not public, you know. Or some of you are, so you know what I'm talking about. But I used to admire my friend Margaret Mead, who every time she was really exhausted and needed energy, she would go to her hate mail. She kept her hate mail. She never threw it away. And I used to watch her. She'd read a letter from 10 years before. And then she'd be full of energy. I can't do that. But this was really being very deleterious to me. So what was I going to do about it? The story I found to be remarkable. This is where mythic stories are often so wonderful. Because what I found was that if I looked at the depth of this, my worst quality turned a little bit, like a quarter turn, was my best quality. Radical empathy. Leaky margins to people, to things, to cultures, to ideas. So I focused on that. I focused on it, and I cannot say that it did away with all the hypersensitivity, but I can say that it has helped enormously and helped me to be able to give gifts that normally I would not have had in ways that normally I would not do. You see. Now, I don't know if we're allowed to get away with this, but I will do it. And it's going to be a mythic event. I'm not doing a psychological thing at all. If anybody, and I could take 2 or 3, we'll start with one, has some kind of issue, something that you really don't like about yourself, or, sensitivity, whatever it is. You will come up here. I will not have one psychological moment at all. I will be pure hypersensitivity litmus paper. And I will read for you what I think is your beautiful quality. Is there anybody who would like to come up? Anybody want to? You do? Come. This nice lady, yeah. No. Everybody sit down because I'm just taking one person right now. Yeah, up here. On stage, please. You probably have to sign a release form too. I think they're very kosher about this, aren't they? No. But this is not the psychological. Her name is
Session.
Session, great name. Great name. What would you say is the ugly Dame Reitman? You shouldn't have to think too long about it.
I have to pick which one's worse.
Oh, no.
Uncertainty. I think sometimes I ruminate over things and can't make decisions on what, if I look deep inside, should be proper.
That's a nice one, actually. Okay, I'm stepping back because I don't want to see you too closely. Could you do this, please? It's very interesting that I'm seeing. Yeah, it's interesting. It's something that in other cultures is called the pattern keeper. They don't have it very much in this culture, but there should be there. The pattern keeper, and that's what I'm seeing in you, is the one who sees, as Bateson said, the pattern that connects. Has the aesthetic sense to really see how this relates to this, relates to this, relates to this, the pattern. The pattern of becoming, the pattern of possibility, pattern of beauty even, the pattern of what makes things work. Okay? It's often a high aesthetic sensibility. So they hold the pattern, the ones that hold the pattern. Now, because it is not something that is honored in the society, it will get repressed and become uncertainty. But the genius that is there is the ability to see the whole and the relationship of the whole, to see the tapestry of things, the tapestry of becoming. Does that speak to you at all?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I would say, my friends, as you to really focus on yourself as pattern keeper. And when you begin to see and appreciate the pattern, now it's not just there to be understood intellectually. You have to know that doesn't work so well. Yeah, but to be felt it.
I'm stuck.
Because you're not looking at yourself in terms of the brilliance that is there, that I'm sensing from you as pattern keeper. You have to celebrate it. You have to do things. You have to have a party for it. You have to create patterns of connection so that people can come and see it. You have to talk about it. You have to practice it. You practice the pattern keeping, and you do it as a pure playfulness, and then it becomes part of you because it's deep in you, and it wants to emerge. So when the next uncertainty comes, dance the pattern. Because what does music do? Music gives you patterns, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Read a lot of poetry. Feel the onomatopoeia. Feel the energy of the words. Tell stories. Stories are always about pattern. Practice patterns until pattern wakes up in you. You are the pattern keeper.
I have the ability to look and see patterns.
Yes.
Without even trying.
Wonderful.
And pick up things like that. But I know that there's supposed to be something more, and I can't get to the point to get past it because I have that ability for a reason, and I know what the reason is, but I can't get there.
Okay. You're looking for an end goal. Here's the problem.
No, I already know my end goal.
No, I'm saying when you're looking at patterns, you may be looking for an end goal. You maybe don't need to do that. Okay. All around the world, I am finding women rising, slowly and surely, to full partnership with men in the whole domain of human affairs. And I discover also that a great many of the women who are out there making the difference, it's 70 to 80% of the human race are women of a certain age, postmenopausal zest, who are women of a certain age who are out there calling the projects, initiating. Nobody's writing about this because it's so embarrassing. But it takes somebody like me who's this madcap all over the world to see that it's happening, okay? With them, they may have a goal in there, but the goal is not critical. The process is more important. Process rather than product. being, doing, rather than having. This is a shift in your own mind. It's a serious shift. Yeah. And it's one of sheer playful enjoyment. Oh, my enjoyment, what a concept. But it is it's unheard of. But it really does. It takes fun. It takes enjoyment, whatever gives you pleasure, and seeing the patterns in what gives you pleasure, and practicing the pattern making. Whatever it is that you do that is pattern making. I can see it. It's there. It's like this great juicy gift that is rising, saying, please, Session, please, I'm here for you.
Makes sense with the crow, because I've got a crow as a spirit animal.
Crow always takes you and builds the nest and creates a pattern.
So I know that I'm the messenger, but I just don't know how to put it out.
You put it out wherever you are. Where do you begin? With whoever's sitting next to you. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'll give you. Okay, I have to write a major book in 3 months. What am I going to do? Help me.
I think that it's probably best if you close your eyes and you breathe deeply and try to visualize the book complete. What would it look like? What size might it be?
God, it's only 200 pages.
200 should be nothing.
Yeah.
Do you have a color you like?
It's a blue teal.
Oh, that's a perfect color for that. Do you have a feeling? Can you put your hands on the book and give me a feeling that this book will evoke?
It's a cinnamon toast.
All right.
So it's both substantive and it has spice and merriment to it.
Excellent. Anything more attached to it? Use your other senses.
Well, the new puppy who's 10 weeks old has stopped peeing on the carpet so I can not have to jump up all the time.
All right. And is your book with you when you do that?
Yes, I'm on the computer right now, but yes, I do see the book. The book is there as a kind of mirage that is gradually taking form to the side of the computer. But this is what you're doing, you see. You have real genius at this. It's in the process rather than the product. Does this help you?
I think so.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. And by the way, you may have to sign something just to let you know. Somebody, if you could take care of that. Okay. All right, one other person? One other person? Nobody else? Another person? Sir? Yes? No, I wasn't being psychological except there at the end. I wasn't. It's just pure mythic scene. Yes, sir. Ariosto, go ahead.
Sì, parlo italiano.
Sì, really? Yes, so yeah.
So my problem is I feel vulnerable, especially to criticism from others.
Does anybody else have that problem? But you've come to the venerable, vulnerable community. That's right. And this is hurtful to you?
It does.
Okay. No psychology. Wait. Would you do this for me too? This just helps me to see things. Yeah. Wow. You can stop. It's okay. That's good. Adios. Where is your family from?
From Goa in India.
Goa, yeah. I love Goa. Great food. A tremendous Portuguese Indian cuisine. Yeah, I've lived in Goa. All right. I'm going to have to use metaphorical, even theological language from what I'm seeing. Wherever it happened, at some point, could have been very early. You decided and you agreed to be a bearer of the Holy One.
Very true. Even when I was conceived.
Okay. Now, the one who decides to be a bearer, or whatever, down to being spored by an archetype or whatever it is, of the Holy One, then becomes hyper alert that this Holy One that you are gestating in your mind and body psyche is not hurt, because it's goodness, it's a nobility. It's like Mary carrying Jesus, So you become very, very protective of it. And that means that when you get the slings and arrows, which are inevitably, you feel them intensely. It's almost like you're feeling them on a surface so that the Holy One doesn't get the arrow. Does that speak to you? Yeah. Okay. Now, how old are you now?
I'm 59.
Oh, you're a young man. But 59 is old enough that the Holy One has grown in you. I look at you and I see this luminous being. I mean, clearly, he's there. He's there. You allow this holy beingness, this quantum partner, this archetypal ally, this essence, self, to befriend you in all these circumstances because you have been a good and faithful servant and you have grown him wisely and beautifully. And by living with this good and holy being, and are you Christian originally? Yes, yeah, Christian thing, yeah. Catholic. But at least it's within, the Catholic is within that sort of kind of structure of that kind of deep friendship. But he's there. You've grown him. And as you put your focus there, it's not that the sensitivity of others will completely go away. It doesn't, because you need that as the stimulus, as Mr. Obama says. You need that stimulus. But it will also allow you to have the beauty of this deep friendship that is there for protection for you. It was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to meet you. Okay. Now, a thing that I want to suggest to you is that if you don't have a spiritual life, for God's sakes, get one. Now, whether it's meditation, whether it's dancing with dogs, whether it is, journaling not about what you ate today or what your diet, but rather journaling about with the great friend. You could even do a back and forth, friend, and then yourself, friend, self, friend, self, friend, self, and begin to discover that richer forms of knowing and being will emerge. Things that go away from the imagination to what we call the imaginal, the deep guidance cells. Just like, that old chestnut that's going around all the place about the butterfly. You have a cocoon. He eats everything. Leaves just savagery everywhere. Then he forms the cocoon, and then he turns into mush. You know that? Turns into utter mush. Mush, mush, mush. How can that butterfly arise out of that mush? Because of imaginal cells, guidance cells, holding the potent codings arise. And they not only arise, my friend, but they make connections. And from the connections, using the mush as holy manure, they arise and as the butterfly, and they live lightly on the earth, and they pollinate, and they're very useful and very beautiful. I really believe that we have within us the codings of imaginal magnificence, which needed this cocooning of our nature, which is what many of you here do and be and play with, the cocooning of the nature, where you are the safe haven and you are providing the stimulus for the imaginal cells to call the higher human being into existence. And I think one of the great issues with therapists today is not just helping and healing in the usual way, it is holing. It's what Andy talked about today. It is making whole. It's integral humanity. It is looking for what is trying to emerge in space and time. What is trying to emerge. And to look upon your clients with wonder and astonishment. To take time and space to be able to do that and not just being the 50-minute hour. We often are, threaded by time. And that's why you then have that fifth brother who does what? He builds the house. He builds the place of safety. How do you go about building your place of safety? Tell me. What do you do? Is there beauty in your office? Is there water? Lovely smells? What is there? Are there textures that they can wrap their hands around? What is going to give not just comfort, but more, is going to give the womb of becoming, so that your office and your situation becomes that holy edifice, that womb of becoming, that place where people feel free not just to reveal and to talk about their life to a trusted and loving and wise person, your partner, you, but also to have the vision of what yet is trying to emerge. You are that chrysalis, and you are creating, helping to create this higher humanity. Now you may say nonsense, da-da-da, and you'd probably be right, but you'd also be wrong. Your profession is probably one of the most ancient professions of all. The evocateur, the midwife of souls, the one who serves as the stimulus package to call people into fullness. But you yourself, and that's what I'm going to talk about when I do the possible therapist, you yourself, my dear friends, must have some of that image in yourself about yourself, if you can. Now you may go back to same old, but not for long. Not for long. And yes, there will be that chink in the thing. There always is the chink. And the soul will fly off again. But that's wonderful. Because by this point, you've got the skills for the next stage, the 7th stage, which is to get the demon out of there, at least for the time being, because he always comes back. But get him out of there because you are helping with intentionality. Now, intentionality is very, very important. Again, look at Lynn McTaggart's book on the intention experiment. Intentionality is the bringing together of body, mind, and psyche around an evolving idea or an evolving ideal. A lot of people say they want to change, and they may have all kinds of lists of what they want to change into. But there is something called the immune response. How many of you know Robert Kagan's new book with Leah, his partner, on the immunity to change? It's a very important book, just came out. And part of this immunity to change comes about because we've lived in certain kinds of patterns for hundreds and thousands of years. There's also very old brain stuff cooked in ancient caves. We really are Paleolithic in many ways. But we also have this neocortex that is so flexible, so interested, so curious. How to create images that will sustain. Look at the book. I just read it, The Immunity to Change by Kagan, because it gives you marvelous structures and strategies to take an X-ray, if you will, of your current situation, how it is blocking you, what you want to do, and what are your deep underlying assumptions about your life. I want to be the best. I want to be the front. I want to run everything. I need to be in charge. That's the words of business people. That has stopped you from having the much more fluent, beautiful, evocative team that you would want to have. Look at that book. It's a very important book. So that you yourself are providing X-rays of both the many levels that are being stuck and the deeper level, the deeper story, the deeper persona who wants to come through. But you then have to help people incarnate and to feel and to act out and to be that possible human. To be the possible human. I wrote a book a long time ago called The Possible Human. Now I think, friends, we've gone beyond that. It's the required human. People don't like that word, so I'm calling it the magnificent human, but it is the required human. Know what it is in yourself. Know what it is. Get to know the depths of yourself. That will take dialogue. And if you can even transcend the therapeutic hypothesis and move into the sense that you are part of the world mind, taking a walk with itself. Hegel once wrote about world historical individuals, people whose particular passion corresponded to the passion and the turning of the time. Out in front or behind the scenes, they became the entrepreneurs of progress, the evocateurs of what's trying to happen. That's you. Your profession is yearning, thrusting. It's sort of like Adam and God, in the Sistine Chapel. You pay $5,000, they give you 2 hours alone with it. Anyway, you pay $100,000, they introduce you to the Pope. This is true. Anyway, I didn't do that. But you have God and Adam, and this is us. What are you? Put your hand out. Put your hand out. Put your hand out. What in your profession is yearning? What is yearning for you? What is the intent, the larger intention that is yearning to make contact with your intention? What it is? Tell me. Speak it. What is it? Healing. What else? Beauty. What else? Nourishment. What else? Acceptance. What else? What is trying to happen? Easy. Shame on you. What else? Love, light. Whatever it is. And give an exegesis around love or light. Don't let it be just a word. Love, light. What does it look like? Who said love? Who said love? What does it look like? A feeling. What else? What does it feel like? Presencing. It's a presencing. Can you so fill yourself in your therapeutic situations with that presencing of that which you want to evoke in others, that their intentionality, their unfolding, their genesis, their second genesis, because you are also the midwives of second genesis. The first Genesis, they got born. The second Genesis, I don't want to say born again, but they are moving into the template of this deeper humanity, which is needed in this time if we are going to survive these incredible times and years. That's deep intentionality. But it means you hold it for them. In northern India, there's a practice where if somebody's very depressed, he will say, "Will you please be God for me for 3 months? Tell me what to do." "Yes, I'll be God for you for 3 months. I hold your excellence while you go into your depression." Wonderful. To hold the excellence of the other. Do you do that? And it's often beyond all the direct that you're getting coming at you, but it is somehow you have tuned in to the excellence of the other. And even if the therapy doesn't work, at least it is there as a pattern that is energizing the other, even though they may have stopped the therapy. Presencing. Oh, yeah. The final form, of course, is you catch the princess. The young man who catches the princess. To catch what is falling. To catch what is emerging. How many of you find that there are these extraordinary insights and happenings, but you have to catch it so it doesn't fall on the stockpile of interesting experiences? Because we all have a lot of those these days. Remember, we live 4 to 10 to even some cases 100 times the amount of sheer experience of our ancestors of 100 years ago. Okay? A muchness. And thus people lose the luminous, deep moments, the potent movements. Yes? Just from muchness, or from laziness, or having life on the screen. What was he saying about today about you have the chickens and then you have the farm that's virtual? That was more interesting. How to move people from screens to reality. Huh? Do you find that? Do you find that in your practice? This is a real question. Do you find that as an issue, especially with younger people, to move from the screen world into the reality itself? Again, if you recapitulate all the things that we've been looking at this morning, high sensory experience, activating that in yourself and in your clients. That first one. Opening the earth and seeing the levels that are there so people become more fascinated by what's inside them than the screened, 2 times removed reality. Second. Third, essence entelechy, calling them into deep, vibratory, marvelous, luscious relationship with a high friend, the deep essence of the life. Fourth, shadow, where the shadow really is holding as a kind of cocoon, a mushy cocoon, the glorious butterfly that is trying to emerge. Fifth, the haven that you are creating for others in this mythic structure. You are creating a haven of safety and a womb of becoming. And you know yourself as capable. And if you don't know yourself as capable, then get the training that you get here and also act as if you do. not in a state of galloping chutzpah either, you know. So you have that. And then, of course, intentionality, having the dream, having the big vision. Because once you start the dream in a creative and critical way, the dream begins dreaming you. What is your expectation for it? Margaret Mead, as I said, lived with us the last 6 years of her life off and on. I never saw anybody so lucky in my life. I mean, grace just seemed to follow her. Bloom, bloom, bloom. Luckiness. I couldn't believe it. Give you an example. We're walking along arm in arm in Central Park. She's complaining. Wah, 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 wah. I don't know how to do this and I can't get it and I have to deliver that speech to the American Academy of Sciences tomorrow. Wah, 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 wah. A woman comes up. Dr. Mead, you don't remember me. Oh, yes, I do. Your name is Linda Nussdorf. You were in my class in 1947 and you never finished your paper. I don't remember. Well, I know, Dr. Mead, I'm sorry about that, but actually I did more. I actually took that same subject, which was, and I did a paper on graduate school, and this is part of my profession. Oh, my God, wonderful. It's just what I was thinking. You come home with me. Well, I used to see this thing happen all the time. And I said to her, how come you're so lucky? She said, yes, I'm blessed. And I said, well, why are you so blessed? She said, because I expect to be. And she literally lived in this aroma of blessedness, which she expected, you see. We gave her a little apartment within our house. And I'd go by at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would hear her get up and stretching. And she'd be saying, this is no secret, everybody knows this. Thank God I'm Margaret Mead. And friends, you know, it wasn't ego. It was way beyond ego. Way beyond ego. It was deep celebration of the fullness of her life. Can you say that about yourself? But it takes that. You stop boring God when you do those kinds of things, you know, instead of wah, 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 it's me like, you know. So this is where the positive psychology that's so popular these days is, I think, very important. I think it has its own shadows, but we don't need to go there. But, you know, because, you know, life is very complex of shadows and light, isn't it? And I think the great ones like Seligman know that, of course. So then finally it is that catching of it all. And this is where we need notes of our catchments. Margaret carried around for every month a very small but very thick little red book. Anything interesting happened, any idea, she brought it out and she wrote it down. What did you say there about time distortion? Oh, yes. At the end of every night, she reviewed her notes. So she harvested her life. And they're all in the Smithsonian. There's hundreds of them in the Smithsonian. But each month was a harvest of life. Who else did that? Leonardo da Vinci. He wore a notebook on his belt. Anything interesting he saw or heard, ripped it and harvested. He caught his life. And that's what I'm suggesting to you, friends. To catch your life. You have, as I said, 5 to 10 to 100 times the amount of experience of your ancestor of a long time ago. I wrote about it in my own life, called an autobiography written about 12 years ago. Lots has happened since then, called A Mythic Life. But all of you are mything links. You are the great human connection between living in space-time and the enormity of the story that is reaching out to you. You are that. That art thou. There is a wonderful poem about this that I often like to use, and it's from a play called A Sleep of Prisoners by Christopher Fry, and it goes like this. The human heart can go to the lengths of God. Dark and cold we may be, but this is no winter now. The frozen misery of centuries cracks, breaks, begins to move. The thunder is the thunder of the flood, the flow, the upstart spring. Oh, thank God, our time is now. When wrong comes up to meet us everywhere, never to leave us, till we take the longest stride of soul folk ever took. Affairs are now soul-sized. The enterprise is exploration into God. What are you making for, huh? Oh, it takes so many 1,000 years to wake. But will you wake? For pity's sake. And friends, I think we have to. We don't have any choice. These are the times. We are the people. Other times in history thought they were it. They're wrong. This is it. Now, if you go to my website, jeanhouston.org, you'll find lots of stuff. The Mystery School on the east and west coast starts in February. It's very good. It'll be in its 27th year. I never repeat myself. I have 244 unpublished 400-page manuscripts in my basement from this. Because I write a small book every month, and by the time it's delivered, it's 400 pages with all the exercises, thousands of them. Anyway, I Twitter, Jean Houston, I do Facebook, I'm just starting. But anyway, look at the Mystery School particularly, because that's the one that has the most relevance, I think, for therapists, and also what's happening, The Magnificent Human in California, January 22nd to 24th. And I'm going to send you a very interesting tape that I just made. But these are the times, friends, we are the people. And you are in one of the most critical, if not the most critical profession of our time. For you are the evocateurs of change. You are the ones who call people into their fullness. You are the ones who are bringing humanity home to who and what we really are. And I have great gratitude and humility before you, and I'm so delighted to be able to present to you. Thank you.